meeting to order, special call meeting to discuss the comprehensive plan of 2019 and take action.
Light cameras action. Let me tell you how the community work program, the 2019-2024 came together. At the last meeting, Ms. Andrews.
Page 56 is the CWB.
Page 56. At the last meeting, Ms. Andrews mentioned that it would be a good idea just to use the SPLOST projects from 2019 through 2024, 25, I guess. And so all of those are community facility related, other than paying the debt of the recreation facility. And so everything is in there that was listed in your SPLOST. I compressed a few things, like I just added, EMS, sheriff, fire department equipment, vehicles, that sort of thing. I just combined it all because I don't need the specifics of each one in there. So I added all of that up and put that in the community facility section. The rest of it, the economic development, most of the projects in there come from the Chamber of Commerce. Their list, and of course we skinnied that down a great deal. And then the land use, or the housing component, and then the land use, natural resources, and transportation. All of that came from, early on in the process, we listed, we looked at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, needs, that kind of thing. And we came up with a final list that I think y'all have seen at least 2 or 3 times. So I have to have projects in here that match that list. And the needs and opportunities list is that's included in here. It starts on page 49. And so I have to have projects in here that address, the need or the opportunity. And so, that's the remainder of the projects. As you can remember, at the last meeting, we had a really huge long list of projects. And everybody knew we had to figure out some way to skinny it down. And so the SPLOST idea was a grand idea. So that encompassed, not all of that's in the community work program, but a lot of what's in the community work program. And that was real easy to do. 2 or 3 of you all, or I'm not quite sure, but the staff went through the entire list from the last meeting and graded it. And everything that was a 2, some of the scores were 1, 1, 1. Those I just put automatically in the appendix. The ones that were a 2, 1, 2 that's included in the work program, those were initially placed in the CWP, but we decided to go ahead and take a lot of those and move them in the back just to simplify things. Now, I would suggest tonight going through the CWP as it is now, and let me add this. I also had to go through the old work program, which Randy and Nancy went through and addressed whether they're completed, currently underway, that sort of thing. And you got to remember, anything we have currently underway listed has to be moved to the new work program. Everything postponed has to be moved to the new work program. So I had to go back through that list and make sure that was all covered. For whatever reason, with DCA, the important parts of the plan now appear to be the land use section and the character areas, and then the community work program and the needs and opportunities. So that's how we came up with what you're looking at tonight, the 2019 to 2024, the new work program. And it's not a long list. It's easy to look at and go through, and it's easy to go through one by one if y'all want to do that. And that's where we are. Everything is in the plan and I'm going to say with the exception of the stakeholder document. I'm about halfway through with that. I did get reviews. I got notices back from DCA. They approved Shiloh's plan. It was the easiest one to do. And they're responding within 6 to 10 days once it gets up there. Pine Mountain, I forgot to have some pictures next to some of the vision statements, which I had to put in. Hamilton, I had all the pictures in, but the main thing there included the stakeholder process, and that was also brought up with Pine Mountain. I needed to expand on some of the verbiage in the stakeholder process and how it all came about and why people were invited, like why the steering committee, why were they chosen. So what I'm going to have to do is get with Randy and Nancy sometime tomorrow or the next day and just sort of go through that and write it out and make sure that's complete. And then I'll have all the dates. I mean, you know, we met for a whole year except for 1 month, I think, Christmas. We did Thanksgiving. So other than finishing that up, everything else is in here and ready to be looked at and to send up. And I really like the expediency that DCA's used to get these back. So that's good. But any questions on the list, anything? And like I said, you can go back to the pages. I was going to say that should have the appendix in it. If it doesn't, well, it looks as if we're just going to have to go through the existing work program as it stands and judge it on its merits. The appendix, which has all the other projects, the long-term projects, that didn't make the cut when I printed it for whatever reason. But anyway, I'll be willing to start and go through each item however you want to do it.
Let's do it that way, Rick.
Okay.
That's okay with everybody.
All right. Did you want me to read through the project, or do you just want to read it and take comment? Read it inwardly and take comment.
Doesn't matter to me.
Are we starting on page 52?
56 is the new work program, 2019 to 2024. And like I said, the entire list of the community facilities is from the current SPLOST 2019.
Yeah, I think we can say yet all of that.
Oh,
It's
that,
in
yeah.
there.
It's in there.
Because those are ongoing and the ones that will most likely, hopefully, accomplish at least some of those.
So that's the low hanging fruit there.
Right.
And I mean, those are some really good projects in there as well. The economic development here again, and this corresponded with the needs and opportunities. You know, everybody, as far as an opportunity, was talking about, both business parks, Northwest Harris and the one in Hamilton. So we addressed those, and that's item A and B. Randy's suggestion, I combined all that into one. Anytime we reference Northwest Harris Business Park, because we had like 6 references to that, or the Hamilton Park, we just combined it all and made it a little bit more succinct.
So that says number 1, ABC, but then there is no number 2, 3, 4, 5,
That's correct.
6.
I just listed it as number 1. I could change that to,
I would, to make it consistent, just take that 1 off,
Okay.
or either add the numbers to the rest.
all right. It's amazing though how quickly when you get looking at the money, how you go, that's still, even though, I mean, look how much it's been cut down, that's still some money.
Yes, it is.
Uh,
It is that.
And then the broadband. So far, we had to do the broadband section, and I copied the section from Harris County, and I put that in Pine Mountain, Mary Trot made some adjustments to, that's what it, Pine Mountains, what they were willing to do, as well as Hamilton, as well as Shiloh. And that's all been good. And there's not one comment about that saying, no, we need to expand that or do that. So that's all good, so I know that's gonna fly through well as well.
As an interesting aside, the Democrats and President agreed today, I think it's $2 billion, I can't remember the exact number, for infrastructure, which is broadband.
Oh, wow.
So they've agreed on something.
Something, well, I think broadband's important.
But it was today,
And-
this
and-
afternoon, as a matter of fact.
And you all do as well. And like I said, the first, well, just about everything so far in the economic section is from the chamber, their document, but it also corresponded with a lot of the needs and opportunities. And the only thing I added in some cases was to try to make, they want these things to have be a little project specific, like with your broadband, you're gonna try to hire a consultant, do a study to further identify the gaps in what can be done. And so each item needs to have something like that. So I tried to, if I had to add something, I did. That might be a little bit more project specific, but that's the whole idea, so.
On page 57, the last two above the black activity about to develop and retain homegrown talent, that says that the entity responsible for that is the school system. And the next one under there, that is also a responsibility of the school system and not the Harris County
Okay.
Chamber. But do we need items that are responsibility of the school system in our plan unless we say we're going to support? Because we are really, we'll support those activities, but not really our responsibility to do either of those things.
You
Well,
can,
the first one says support, but the second one doesn't. It says we will work with, but that's not the chamber's.
we
And
can,
we also have the funding from the Harris County Children Funds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those two.
Yeah.
you can have work items in your community work program that might be associated with other entities like the Industrial Development Authority.
Well,
That's
I
bad.
understand working with the development authority, but, and we support these things. I'm not saying we don't support them, but the money's not gonna come out of our general fund.
Right.
And, that last one, we don't want the school board to say, that's absolutely not the chamber's responsibility, that's ours.
Well, we can reword that and just, I'm just not quite sure how the chamber's funded, and of course I know how
Yeah.
the Harris County School System is funded. So the bottom one should be the Harris County School System as well.
Yes. Because it says we will support and we will work with, and that's correct.
Okay, and so then the funding is, it's just,
Funding school districts, funding.
and theirs is mostly the tax, correct? And then government,
It's gonna be
federal
property
funds.
taxes and state and federal funds.
Okay,
And then the bottom would be, just says we will work with them. I don't know that we would put any money toward it other than supporting them.
that's fine. I think that clarifies it, and we would just, I think we can just, given it's not yours, I think we can do just those words, support. We can say support the activities of, or just put support. Because, those were both, the retaining the school kids, that was a big discussion in one of the meetings, and that's one of the needs, was to better keep some of the younger kids here, to hopefully lessen the burden on some of the older ones out of here and those costs.
And I'm not sure I understand that one underneath activity, that we will address any development requirements that limit housing options, enhance housing options.
That would be if you know, most people do subdivision review checks or zoning ordinance checks to see if there are things like with infill development. Let's say, I mean, infill development is great because especially if the water lines are there, you don't have to run a water line. You get a new water customer. You know, so that's a plus win. You're not running anything to it.
Well, we talked about infill in the next one.
Okay. I was just using that as an example. You know, one of the goals we had, because we had the wrong thing, you know, where we just, in regards to housing, let me see. It was one of the policies that discussed it. Which one?
Number 4 says housing needs. The vision statement.
Yeah, because, you know, we had talked, that all started off with the specific conversation about senior housing, and then it was broadened out. And so I just can't say, you know, let's support diversifying, you know, our housing to accommodate, you know, the citizens that we have now as well as the citizens that will be coming. It needs to have some sort of project. Okay, well, how are you going to support it? And so I was just trying to find a way, and a lot of that is just there again going through your ordinances and making sure there's nothing in your ordinances that's inhibiting housing that some of your individuals that live here now or that may be moving here, some of the kids that you're going to retain, you know, limits their ability to, you know, A, buy a home or B, any rental units, that sort of thing. In other words, yeah, it's a good thing to support it, but what project are you going to try to implement to do what you need to do? And you know, that can be reworded any way y'all want to do it.
Rick, on page 57, the 3rd item down, you show the department as being Harris County Economic Development Department. We don't have such a title.
I got that off the website, I think.
You don't have an economic development department, we have a community development department.
Oh, okay,
And
that's
then
where I
government
got it.
authority.
All right, where's the one you saw with economic?
3rd item down on page 57.
Because I have it the other way.
It should be
All right.
replace economic with community.
Okay.
And the 4th item down on page 57, where it talks about tourism and such as ecotourism, the rail to trail pedestrian walkway project, and the loop trail around the community center and library. I don't think we need a loop trail around the community center and library. We already got 2 in Hamilton, and you don't do the rail to trail. That'd be 4 right here in one little town. And we can't even get Elvis Park up and running, and that's supposed to be a walking trail.
So you know, one of the needs was to try to expand on ecotourism. So yeah, I mean, I can take that out, the loop trail. I mean, that's fine. And I was just trying to give some sort of example as to.
I think you put that in the appendix.
We did. We moved the loop trail back into the appendix.
Because I could see that people using the community center to go in and do some, you know, strength training and whatnot, then may want to just, while they're still there doing that, is be able to go out and walk and run around that. Yeah, you're right, that could be in the future.
Okay.
Yeah, because right now we got 1 we can't get up and running, and we already got, well, actually we got 2 we can't get up and running, count the rail to trails, Elvis Park, and we already got 2 in Hamilton.
Yeah.
So that's trying to put a 3rd one that we can't get up and running. It needs to be down the road.
The whole sentence, or just
I would,
half the sentence?
I would take from where it says the rail trail pedestrian walkway project, and then delete the rest of it.
Yeah, I just did a period after project.
And you don't have a full sentence, you have a full sentence. But fix that, we will invest in assets that attract more visitors to our county residents, more amenities. Take the period off, such as ecotourism, no, ecotourism, else transportation.
Provide county residents more amenities and just take the period out, or,
And just put a comma, such as,
okay,
and then put the period after project.
all right.
The rest of that
And then the next one, you know, I mean, that's specific, it doesn't say what brand you're gonna define, but there's a task that says we're gonna define a unifying brand for the county. I'm not quite sure how you do that, that's more marketing stuff, but, you know, so there's nothing to add there with that, and,
I would think we already have a brand.
We do, we worked hard on it.
we got a logo.
We have a logo.
We have a logo, if that's what you mean by brand.
And the high school's HC is actually branded to the high school for that to use.
Copyright.
But any entity in the county that wants to use that, you know, they're letting them use it like rec teams and sports teams.
okay.
And we already have a brand, and probably to do a better job of promoting our brand might be better. So we have one, like I said, we already have our own county logo.
Well, we could reword that to promote our brand,
Yeah, I think so.
okay, because promote specific.
And did we get the last two right there?
I think we were just
Sounding a
gonna
little better than.
just add support.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sue, and that's not our deal. I mean, I'm a teacher, but that's the teachers, you know, school system's deal.
Does it even need to be in
Right, no, I'm saying, that would be a different hat.
there? Does it even need to be in there?
I don't think it does.
That's fine with me. You want me to put it back in the appendix? I mean, that's
I would
No.
just take it out.
Alright. Okay.
I mean, we will support those efforts, but, you know, they are gonna be the originators and the ones that get it done.
Okay.
The only thing you could put in was, we will continue to support the efforts of our school system, that's about it.
Yeah. And then on.
No, I know, that's a given, that's what I'm saying, that's a given.
Yeah. All right, and then under the housing, that, you know, enhance housing options in our community. And you're gonna be reviewing your zoning subdivision ordinances anyway, and you already are, to address any development requirements, because you would be surprised, there are a lot of things in that ordinance that go unnoticed. And if there's anything, and I'll give you an example, let's say, I'm trying to think of a good one. Let's say your ordinance required 1,000 foot of road frontage for each lot. And your ordinance currently requires 50.
Right.
All right, and so that, I mean, that's good. If it required 1,000, that would make it much more difficult for people
Correct.
to be able to probably buy a lot, to build a home. And so those are sort of the things that you look at and you go, you know, we can just tweak that a little bit and that'll make it, and so that's
Good point.
that's the idea there. And because you have to go in, you know, obviously, you know, all of us really want a majority single family residential home development. To me, that's the backbone of any county or city. But even with those, there can be things you go, you know, if you just reduce this just a little bit, you're still getting a really quality house on 2 acres or 5 acres or whatever. But if you don't change that, I just, you know, that kicks the price up 6,000-7,000, and you know, just can't do that. So.
Well, and this is just my opinion, there are a lot of common sense decisions that can be made on those ordinances. There are a lot of issues in there that just require It's just
Yeah.
it's just a,
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
how it says that.
Yep, so,
Too much, you're right. Yeah.
so that's, that's the whole thought behind that one. And there again, I have to address something in there to address the need
Right.
for the housing options and, to make sure that the general public has housing options available, that sort of thing. So that's the best I can come up with. And plus, I knew you were doing it anyway. The second page, support appropriate residential and non-residential infill. And there again, infill's a great thing. You've got a lot of older subdivisions. I mean, really, Ellerslie, Catala, in those areas, and then over off of Hopewell Church Road, there's existing subdivisions, been there for quite a while. And they all, or the majority, are probably gonna have vacant lots in it. But and people can infill on it, but that can be as simple as, I don't know if y'all give lot size variances or not in your zoning ordinance, but when I first started, and I know Linda can attest to this, there were two things you couldn't do. One was to issue a variance on what was going to be put on the property. That had to be, you couldn't come in and say, well, I want a variance because it's residential, I want to put commercial. It could be that they had to go through the zoning process. The second is that you couldn't reduce the lot size. Well, that's not true according to a bunch of attorneys now. As long as it's in your ordinance that you can reduce the lot size, you state in there, we will allow, this is what we allow variances for, and you put in a lot size variance. And I've heard several attorneys now say, as long as that's in there, and you say you can do it, they're fine with that. They still don't say that, rezoning strictly for use, changing uses, you got to go through that legislative process. But they've changed their tune on something like a lot size variance. And a lot of our smaller communities, especially which are under a lot of political pressure, believe me, being able to get a lot size variance reduces their sweat factor. When it seems so simple to do and it's not going to harm anybody. And so in some cases, they've even given, like a quarter of an acre variance, as long as the septic tanks function, all that other stuff works. And so that's where something like that comes from, and that would work, especially when you're trying to infill, in certain areas, as long as the soils are good and everything else. That would just give your planning commission, because the planning commission can do that. Well, I don't know how it's structured, but that would either give the planning commission or you all, the board, if you all make the decision on variances, the ability to keep that.
Under community facilities, it's supposed to have continue the rail trail pedestrian walkway project with the development of Pine Mountain phase of the project and the rehabilitation of the old railroad bridge over US 27. Is that supposed to be in there twice? Page 56. Is that supposed to be in there twice?
No.
We don't, that don't need to be in there one.
What happened when we modified the community facilities, I didn't realize I'd already had it in. I had the bottom one in the transportation section, because it's really transportation related. And so I could put all the SPLOST stuff together. I went ahead and moved it up, didn't realize that I already had it in there. So,
The bottom we just take out.
yeah, either one. And, I don't know if the old railroad bridge is mentioned in the SPLOST. I know it's talking about the trail.
It's part of the trail.
But that was mentioned in one of the discussions, early on in the process, because if you're gonna extend the trail, that eventually is gonna have to be addressed. So, but I'm just glad, y'all will be starting this fall with some of that. That's really great. I'm going to go back to the housing, and I could put this in land use as well. And this was mentioned several times, and this got 2 out of 3 votes. Prepare a strategy to use the 4 empty interchanges on I-185 and address the market potential for creating, and I added this, creating housing communities, mixed use instead of just a plain housing development. And that was one of the needs that was at one of the first couple of meetings was, people were talking about, like I said, the Grove and things like that, more developments like that. And really, a great place to put them is on the interchange. And so especially if there's a commercial mix, because one of the things in the economic development is to encourage that retail, because you lose so much of it going down to Columbus. So, that's trying to address not only the housing options, but the retail end of it as well. And if the Grove ever gets going, I believe that'll be a great development, it'll be a godsend for you all. So.
Yeah, looking at the interchanges, that's longer range because we don't have water or sewer or anything out to any of those.
Yeah.
So that's,
we could
not
put
only is it
that.
gonna be expensive to get them out there. We approved one years ago at, Hope Church, or was it 18? It was 18. I think on the southwest corner of 18, and that was when packaged sewer treatment facilities were the thing. And we were going to be very careful about that. We actually did rezone it to do that, and then the recession hit us.
Yeah.
So
Took out a lot.
But that's one of the big issues as far as developing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It would be a great place to have that, and have some retail establishments.
Yeah. And I didn't realize I had to ask Allison today that they had stopped the scenic byway program for Georgia. And so y'all did it much longer after that because, we had talked in the old transportation element about 190 making that a scenic byway, and even as I mentioned at one of the meetings, the necessity to try to keep Jones Cross Road and 18 looking pretty nice. That's been recommended by in 1 or 2 documents that I've read, not just from here. And even making 18 a scenic byway, going towards Pine Mountain. But without that program, I just think it's great y'all got I-185 on that list. That's going to keep that looking nice for quite some time. So, but did y'all want me to move that to the appendix to the longer projects, or it at least applies to one because the development's already there, and hopefully that's going to kick off. So I know it applies to that one. Mulberry Grove, and there's some commercial in some of the other places, but
You never know, they may put a Dollar General land up there on the one at 18. And I say that because they have one at Hopewell, they have one in Mulberry Creek. And then that's one more exit up. And then, I wasn't saying that to be funny, but we already have two of the 4 exits. If they don't have the county water, at those, like at Hopewell Church Road, or do the Dollar General and the Circle K there have their own way? Because, Hopewell Church Road has county water, but I don't think it goes
To the
past.
interstate.
No, it goes to the interstate, I just don't know if it goes past, it goes across.
Well, they have to, because there's no county water, you got that way.
I would think so, but.
You got it down there as 2022, which is
Tomorrow.
only 3 years away.
yeah.
But you're talking about preparing a strategy, so I would certainly think there might be some discussions at that point in time, but I don't know that we by that time might be able to do it.
I can move to 2024, is that,
We need to be further out from there.
Well,
yeah.
if you got the Grove, which already has a,
Yeah. The
then,
road's covered.
right, that's what
But
I mean.
the other corners of that intersection.
Right.
Or not.
So, it may be you wanna, I can see moving it to 2023 or something, 2024, because you wanna have this.
2024, I think would be reasonable.
Yeah, 2022 might be a little soon, 2023 might be, because we gotta have some strategy.
Yeah, you gotta at least be thinking about it.
Right.
Because it is, that's revenue that's going through the county.
Right.
And taxes that would be benefited.
And if 2024 gets here and you all haven't, broached that subject, I mean, that's fine. You can always go, if you think, we really need to do that, well, the next time this gets done, you just move it to the next community work program. So,
Wait, let me ask you a question. When this is looked at, you apply for grants or whatever, which one of these carries the most weight? As far as the work program, independence,
the work program, yeah, that carries more weight.
good.
If it's in your work program, and matter of fact, like I said, so many of the grants now, and it's by design, it needs to be in your work program. Now, you can amend your comprehensive plan anytime you want.
Right.
So if you wanted to amend it, and if there was something you really needed to do, but it wasn't addressed in your work program, you can amend the plan and put it in there. And there's nothing that says you can't.
So actually, and I could be dead wrong, but in my mind, in my opinion, the more things we can put in the work program or have in the work program that are actually attainable, more positive.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a pretty thorough list.
And we know that, yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, I think Shiloh's was a page, so,
Was it?
yeah, we got about a page up there.
Proud to have a page for the goals.
Yeah, they did, we did that and everything, so. But yeah, I can change that to 2024.
And there again, it is just developing the strategy.
Yeah. And, that can be as simple as sitting down with Randy, Ryan, the public works people, one of the commissioners, and just having a discussion of what you would like to see, how you would like to see it, and what type, the mix of things. I mean, is going to be more retail as opposed to housing, or, that's, it's just some basics of really what you would like to see those things develop, and more than anything, how nice are they going to look? It's just right there on the interchange. I can tell you, what's the first thing when people go off I-185, what's the first thing they see if they're going to turn on Mulberry Road, the first thing they're going to see is that development when it ever starts. And the better it looks, the better impression they're going to have. The better that area functions, the better impression they're going to have. And so I think that would be a big factor is making sure that even though you have maybe a residential commercial mix, and maybe even a light industry component to some of them, I think they need to look pretty. I think that's really important, I mean, just think about your own experiences when you go somewhere and it really looks nice. You go, wow, this must be a good place. It looks nice. When it looks terrible, it's the last place you want to be. Good. I don't know if I want to go down that street. Land use wise, we've already done that. Expand and appropriately locate. You can continue to do that. Commercial land use in Harris County. We identified on the future development map, and then I gave you the insets to take a look at. That would basically satisfy that requirement. You know, we looked at areas of existing commercial areas. And there again, there's some other areas that are zone commercial that probably didn't make the future development map. But, you know, there again, that all went back to encouraging retail, and some of that is, you know, how many spaces do you already have that are zone commercial? What's vacant? What I know, I think there's one vacant building out there at Cocoa Way, because we did 3 pods to kind of stay with the notable concept instead of one long thing. But I think there is one vacant commercial building out there. That's what Lauren was telling me at Marstead, or Laura at Marstead. So I think she goes by there a lot. She said, I'm pretty sure that building's vacant. And so just identifying those. Yeah, I mean, this is an actual area.
What are you talking about?
It's on the left-hand side that she thought was vacant, north of Cocoa Way, right there, you know, 27. So it was a vacant commercial building. I mean, it sits in between.
Is that where the tax?
I think it's
Yeah.
a tax.
Where
Yeah.
the tax office was, I think.
And it was there this year, so even
I
though the
think
ones
they're
that owned
out.
it last year, they may have even gone to
Jail.
jail.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think there was another group in there this year.
So, but even if that one's occupied, you know, it's, like I said, going through, and one of the other comments was utilizing, you know, trying to get the downtown areas in Hamilton and Pine Mountain and Waverly Hall and Shiloh to a point where a lot of their commercial facilities that are sitting there, and a lot of them empty, would be more ready for business, and hopefully that business, you know, maybe there's things that you can add, utilities to those facilities and make sure they have X, Y, and Z. Make them more compatible for retail business to come in and be able to start in those buildings and not invest a lot. The other change plan unit development ordinances, I couldn't, and y'all doing that with your,
First reading is this month, and the second reading is for the commissioners next month.
all right. So that's another one, y'all knock off. And that'll also cover going through the ordinances, and that's what you're doing, is what makes it easier to administer, what makes it easier to understand. Is there anything that's really holding somebody back? But we can still meet and protect the things we want to protect, even if we just change this just a little bit. And another one that, of course, open space, we talked about that a ton. And that's just sort of stating the opposite, to maintain open space requirements in the plan development ordinances. And, you know, sometimes you'll get pressure, especially from developers. At a minimum, a lot of times, if let's say you're requiring a third of it to be open space, you'll get some of that pressure to shrink that. And you know, and maybe they can't provide a third of the area that they're going to develop open space, and it just doesn't work. But there again, that's using common sense. But at 20%, it does. And so, but the bottom line is, hopefully, you know, it won't ever be a situation where you go, yeah, you know, this requires 25%. But heck with it. I mean, I guess there could be a situation like that. But I think maintaining some open space, especially for these newer generations that have grown, they haven't grown up on the farm, so to speak, like I have. You know, having that open space in some of those recreational areas would be real important to them. And all that's easily done as you're going through your ordinances, as long as you don't modify your open space requirement. That takes care of it. Natural and cultural. This was from your old plan. I left that in there just because, you know, we talk about Mulberry Creek and protecting those areas, and luckily there's a lot of floodplain in there that helps protect those banks. And y'all have participated in an FIP program, I think, for some time now. And see, that's something else that a developer has to meet. And I'll be honest, I mean, I know some counties that have adopted it, and you don't know they've adopted it, and they don't even consider it when the development comes in. And you need to do that because Actually, we had at our council meeting this last time, we had a bunch of folks from DNR, the floodplain unit. They gave a presentation, and they're really, they're really stepping up on that. If you've got it, they want you to enforce it and require the individuals to do what they need to do. I'm surprised, one of the things they told us after the meeting, Harry, most of the model NFIP ordinances, you just have to be, I think you can be at flood level. I can't remember how they said it, but it seemed to me you could be in a 100-year floodplain and the slab could be at flood level. And I thought, well, that doesn't make much sense. But however they worded that basic model ordinance just didn't require that, but they said, most places, like you have to do at the beach, it's better off if you're elevated 7 feet up, like on stilts and that sort of thing. So, but like I said, those are all things that this applies to. And that's one that was carried over, and of course, we all know how many citizens in the county really care, about the environment, in Harris County. And so, anything that anybody can do to here again keep it looking pretty. We got the green space plan, actively work for green space, maintain open space requirements here again in the plan development ordinances. That's something that can easily be done. With Esri Business Analyst and the aerial imagery now, man, you can sit there and just start tracing where your existing timber lines are, what connects to facilities you already have, whether it's the library, whether it's the rec center, whether it's some of your existing ballparks. And with the bike trails they've been doing in LaGrange and other places, that's what they're doing with them. They're connecting existing facilities that are important to the community. LaGrange College to downtown, LaGrange College out to the rec facilities in Granger Park and out to the high school football field, Callaway Stadium. Connecting those trails to historic resources in town. That people can just walk by. While they're doing with the existing sidewalks is expanding them to like 5 feet instead of 3 feet, well, maybe like 6 feet. But they just don't want you walking. They want to connect to the places that you want to walk to. Have a destination. And that was also brought up in some of the meetings. So, and a green space plan would help along those lines. And it's easy enough to do. And so that's in there. And one of the things that John left us with, and he was hoping to put that in the appendix, which is easily done. I just want to find a good quality map of it. He had that one drawing of it was a rating of the good soils in the county. And he thought if a minimum, you just put it in the appendix, like in the design appendix. That can be sort of a launching point for the planning commission in a general way to start addressing some other criteria. Okay, well, it's a single family development. You're going to have septic tanks. What kind of soils we got there? Let's call the health department. Yeah, these soils are X, Y, and Z. They're moderate to this. And even from an agricultural standpoint and productivity and things of that nature. And that's just additional information that you can add to a zoning review or a subdivision review that I think just helps you make a more informed decision, even just from a recommendation standpoint from the planning commission. So I added that in there. It doesn't do me any good if I can't get a map that has more clarity. And Laura's been looking for that for about the last 5 days, but we called John and said, where'd you find this? Because we need to get a better map. So that would be easy enough to do. And even if that just gets slipped in the planning commission's packet when they start to review the rezoning or things like that, that suffices as well. Transportation, we did talk about, this got 2 lights. Create a visually appealing gateway into the county along SR 18 the intersection US 27. And here again, that sort of corresponds with the review that was done, gosh, back in the 50s or 70s, 60s or 70s, I just can't remember the organization, of the historic importance of 18. It doesn't say you gotta do a design overlay guideline, but what it does indicate is this is something that really needs to be thought about further. And it's almost like getting and discussing the interchanges. And I think at some time, probably putting a group together to address, if not just 18 or 190 again, or some other areas, I think that's important. You know, you got a lot of people, especially in the Jones Crossroad area. I don't think they're in a hurry of selling. I know the Troop side at that one point, the Big Angus farm there. I know one time I think they wanted to develop that, but Troop County Board of Commissioners, I wasn't there, but I'm understanding they squashed that somehow because it's such a nice area in there. So, and then the last thing, the low-hanging fruit, we need to update the SDS, and Randy's been on me about that. I never received any calls other than Mayor Trot about sitting down with anybody and discussing the SDS. So what that tells me is it's just going to be better to do the Forum 4, which will add that housing component, which will address the housing that they do in Pine Mountain and the housing that they have been interested in Waverly Hall. Shiloh's not interested. I know the county citizens have really not expressed a concern to get involved in some of the housing programs, and then just have everybody sign off on it. Again, that's the quickest measure. The only thing we would have to do is just add the housing. This is my own professional opinion. You know, but I would think that for most of our communities, you know, like at least 10 years from now, I know everybody hated doing it in the 90s. I mean, nobody wanted to do it. But that things really might need, you know, individuals and cordially, you know, whether it's elected officials or citizens, might need to get together and readdress some of the existing services. And just have a chat, and hopefully it doesn't become a knockdown, drag out, which Troop County was the last one to get theirs done back in, I don't know, 1999, 98, whenever it was. We're proud of that. We really acted. And it really, as my understanding, it took the governor or somebody to call down and go get it done. You know, the governor calls, I don't know if that's true, but that's it.
Thank you, Rick. Anybody
Yes,
have
sir.
questions or comments? Thank you, Allison. We appreciate the time that y'all are taking to help us with this. It's been a long time, a lot of time, a lot of personal time. But, anybody have any comments or any questions from the board?
And at some point, you'll have to do the transmittal resolution. And you could, if that's on your agenda, you can do, or you can do it at your first meeting. Yeah, you can do that at your first meeting.
You said we could adjust the community works project program where we got out here, right?
Yeah.
And we also adjust the appendix, since we don't actually have the appendix to kind of go through.
Yeah.
There may be some things in the appendix that a lot of us
You want me to send that to Nancy tomorrow? Well, I don't know, yeah, I think you have it. I'll resend it. Because we took this.
Was it on the email you sent? Because I don't remember.
Cause like
It is.
Oh, yeah.
It's on the email, yes, both the new work program and the appendix is on the email.
But that
I
was,
sent,
was that done after you moved all the stuff?
no.
That was
No.
before?
no,
Okay,
that
so you
was,
just said it's the new appendix.
okay, I'll do that, which has, the stuff I moved today, that's been added to the appendix, I'll resend that to y'all.
I just don't see a use for us having a sidewalk from the high school to the community center. So if that's in the appendix, I don't see that being an issue. Because I actually talked to a bunch of the
I
students.
did too.
They don't walk. They're
That's
gonna
what I
drive or
was
they
gonna
ride.
No, they're not gonna walk, they said,
Yeah, I
no,
think
we'll
so.
drive our car.
Yeah, you know, so,
Well, it could be a safety issue too, that would be a pretty lovely walk.
Yeah, it would.
and depending on where you put the sidewalk, you're either gonna take property of the houses on one side or property on the other side. So,
Oh, yeah, that's one thing.
A lot of these, what do you call them? A lot of these priorities and so forth are being set in Washington, and they don't talk to the local people as to what they want really. It is a way of a carrot and stick approach to get us to agree with Washington. That comes to walking trails and all sorts of things. That's just one example.
like I want-
And you can even trace it when it started with Washington administrations.
Like if we put having a county-owned recreational facility on Lake Hardin, I don't think that needs to be in there either.
It's an
I'd rather do it myself.
Yeah, I don't see.
So I thought we'd ask.
I thought that should be out.
That would be
Yeah, because some of the stuff that may be in the appendix, I'm not sure I'm gonna agree with.
Some of it is just not attainable at all.
Well, it's a pretty extensive list of appendix
Yes.
now, so, you know, if, I'll send it out tomorrow,
Okay.
you can strike through what you think needs to come out of it, mark what you think maybe needs to move forward into the work program, and that's an easy fix.
You can send all that to me and I can do what I did with the last one, just send it back to you with the results of the.
Okay.
So do they need to take action tonight to approve the comp plan update pending the approval of the appendix?
Or the,
Or moving forward with the?
all we're doing, the only thing we were gonna address tonight is the transmittal resolution.
Okay.
And so basically, that says, you know, you're just voting to send the document to us and then the DCA. And yes, if they want to do that tonight, that's fine.
If we had it, we would, but we don't, so we
Okay.
can't.
I wanted to ask Linda and Randy are both members of our committee, if you have any comments you want to make on the plan.
Probably a lot of them. But no.
So would we do that?
So we do the resolution at the May 7th meeting? What
Yes.
do you
You
need,
can do that.
what do you need them to,
Yeah, what do we need to do?
do they need to approve the transmittal resolution tonight, and then we'll get it prepared, Becky can sign off on it, and I'll get it to you?
They can do that tonight, because what I'll do, you know, we've got to do the public participation part of it. You know, that's halfway through. I got to discuss with you all and just write down, you know, the thoughts of, like I said, the committee that was formed.
Yeah.
You know, they want some more in-depth of, you know, well, why were those people chosen, that kind of thing. So
Okay, so the finished product is not finished yet.
that's correct. That's the last piece.
So we should hold off to do the transmittal until we get the finished product.
That'll be fine, because they're,
Okay. So if we can probably get it done by May 7th, you send me the appendix, they get their responses back, we get it
right,
to
and
you,
then we just do
and you
the
finish it up,
stakeholder
your stuff.
stuff,
Okay.
and that's it.
So then send it to us prior to, well, we'll get it in our packet.
Yeah, you will.
So we'll have time to look at all of the changes.
Okay.
Okay, and Linda and Randy, since y'all are the two members of the committee that are here, thank you for the time y'all put in. Because it's taking time out of your personal time to come in, and we appreciate that.
Well, I apologize for being late tonight, but unfortunately I forgot what time.
That's okay, Randy.
But you remembered where to go?
That's right. That's right. So I guess we're finished.
All right.
So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn at a second. All right, all those in favor?
Yeah.